Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight in our news weekend, the PM addresses a U.S.-China trade war. A review of the Supreme Court workflow to begin on Monday. Education upgrades progressing, plus Benji releases new music.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news weekend, and thanks for joining us. I'm Juanitude. Topping news tonight, the Bahamas has made it clear to United States President Donald Trump that China is also an ally, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who returned to the country today after meeting with Trump and 4 other Caribbean leaders at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida on Friday. Ahead of that meeting, the White House office of the press secretary said in a statement that Trump looked forward to working with the Bahamas and other Caribbean countries to counter China's predatory economic practices. China's charge d'affaires clapped back and accused the U.S. of attempting to disintegrate solidarity and cooperation between China and developing countries. Well, during a news conference in the diplomatic lounge of Lynden Pinling International Airport this morning, Minnis said China did come up during Friday's meeting.
China came up during one of the early meetings. I pointed out very clearly that China and the Bahamas are allies, and we have a good working relationship, and that will not change. But in terms of what was in the press and whatever, no. To that extent, no.
During its fiery back and forth with the U.S. this week, China sought to remind the Bahamas that it assisted with the completion of the Bahamas resort. China also gifted the Bahamas with the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium. However, on Thursday, charge d'affaires for the United States Embassy in Nassau, Stephanie Bowers, encouraged Caribbean leaders to be wary of whom they get into business with. Well, Minnis was asked today whether he felt pressured by the U.S. to change the Bahamas' relationship with China.
No, absolutely none. Absolutely none. Zero. Zero.
Has the U.S. made a commitment to, I guess, where they feel as though China is doing too much investment? Are they planning to, I guess, make up for that?
No. There was no such discussion, no.
Minnis says he also used the opportunity to raise concerns about U.S. travel advisories on the Bahamas with President Trump. Last month, the U.S. Department of State reissued a Level 2 travel advisory for the Bahamas, warning U.S. citizens to exercise increased caution when visiting the country due to crime. A similar advisory was released in January last year. The U.S. advised that this latest warning was reissued after periodic review with updates to information on crime.
The president was very concerned as to how that's impacting us and whatever, and I would have explained that. I would have also pointed out that when one look at the amount of criminal attacks or involvement of the American tourists versus our population, very negligible. That is, we're talking about 0.004% of Americans that may have been affected, which is negligible. And of greater concern was that it appears as if the travel advisories are being recycled, and that some of the information that was on the travel advisory is not pertinent today because buildings or restaurants that they may have referred to no longer exist.
Minnis says Trump has promised to look into this issue.
The president directed the individuals who are responsible for that aspect to have a look at it and deal with it as appropriately as possible. That was an issue of concern to all the Caribbean leaders, so we all followed and spoke about that, and we were quite happy that that issue was brought up.
Minnis described Friday's meeting as very interesting and said he also discussed with Trump the need for better protection of the country's southern borders from drugs and human traffickers.
I pointed out that drugs passing through our territorial waters, those traffickers do not want to stop here in the Bahamas. They're en route to the U.S. That's their final destination. However, it's not unusual that some may stop and drugs may enter our shores, and that causes criminal activities and disturbances within the society. And we know that the U.S. has a base there, and the Bahamas also has our members of the defense force there, and therefore we would need some strengthening of our southern border.
And in other news, in an effort to address a significant backlog, a review of the workflow of the Supreme Court will get underway on Monday, according to Supreme Court Justice Bernard Turner, who addressed a Citizen Security and Justice Forum. Jared Higgs has that.
Turner noted that both the Supreme and Magistrate Courts are experiencing a significant backlog, and a request for proposal was sent out to allow an outside entity to come in and evaluate the system.
The successful bidder, as we understand it, comes in on Monday of next week to begin a review of the workflows of the entire Supreme Court, both on the civil and on the criminal side of that institution, with the aim that at the end of that process, we have an actionable roadmap for the effective implementation of solutions to our challenges.
The Citizens Security and Justice Program is funded by a $3.4 million Inter-American Development Bank loan. The initiative is described as a multifaceted crime prevention program. As it relates to the proper functioning of the courts, Justice Turner says the system needs a technology upgrade.
So at the same time as the consultants are coming in to look at our workflow, we are also seeking to engage in what we had identified when ACB, members of the judiciary, the then acting Chief Justice against Justice Stephen Isaacs, and myself at a previous conference in late 2017 as a possible solution to our communication and information technology challenges. We are engaging with the persons who are responsible for that technology so that that can be implemented within the judiciary on a trial basis at the same time as the consultants are looking at the way in which we do our business.
Turner says the court is also looking to redevelop its digital presence.
We also hope during the course of the next several months to update. It may seem like a simple thing, but it's the access to information which we recognize we have a responsibility to the citizens to provide. We're seeking to redevelop a website for the Supreme Court so that both the cases, which all of our hardworking judges are producing, the authorities, the decisions of the court, are able to be made available to members of the public.
And that's not all.
We're also looking at being able to provide, again, to members of the public, the information relative to when matters are coming up, so that we would have a calendaring function on that website as well. And then ultimately, we're able to implement the information and communication technology solution, that we will also be able to move the judiciary more fully into the 21st century by the introduction of electronic filing of documents, court documents, and other processes.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Minister of National Security Marvin Dames also addressed the forum for the IDB-funded program, which he says is broad in its scope.
The approach of citizen security is one, it's an holistic approach. And we need to focus on that. It's a broad-based approach that seeks to bring remedies to all of those variables that will have a profound impact on the social issues and all of its underlying causes that are currently impacting us in this country today.
Dames says the key is to focus on crime fighting without emphasizing the role of crime fighting agencies.
So when you look at those four components, you know, you ain't hearing nothing in any of those four components about the police. Not one. Component one, right? Component two, we have employment, right? Component three, because the justice system is bigger than just the police.
The National Security Minister also stressed the importance of nurturing Bahamian youth.
Working on education, on positive social skills. If you're not in those communities building and working on those kids from the time they're small, you're already losing the battle. You're already losing the battle. Because now, if they're not socialized, and if they're not educated, and if they're not prepared to face the work environment, who's going to employ them? Tell me. Who's going to employ them?
Education Minister Jeff Lloyd giving an update on upgrades underway in the public education system. This includes the launch of virtual classrooms, which will provide students on the Family Islands access to subjects that weren't available to them.
We recognize the challenges we have in populating our teaching corps, and particularly the Family Islands, and that is going to be addressed, first of all, by more aggressive recruiting, but secondly, by digitizing the system, which we are now already underway. Last September, we signed a contract with BTC, signed a contract in January with Cable, and in February with Walker's Industry. Within the next 12 to 18 months, the entire system is going to be digitized. One of the one of the most important components of that is distance education, which will enable teachers here in New Providence to be able to teach those classes in New Providence, and at the same time, students in those Family Islands that do not have the benefit of such subjects.
Lloyd says they're also looking at improving the curriculum for preschool and primary school students.
We're already reforming, for instance, our curriculum. We know that it has to be 21st century ready. We have to be relevant to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And already Ms. Sharon Poitiers, Director of Curriculum in our ministry, is already addressing that, meeting, of course, with the primary school and the preschool curriculum, reducing the number of subjects in the primary school is very important.
Additionally, teachers are currently undergoing professional development training to enhance their skills. Lloyd says they're also expanding their impact at the tertiary level.
We have a tuition-free program at the Bahamas Technical Vocational Institute, BTVI. Last year, it was way oversubscribed. We were able to increase the enrollment there by 1,200. That continues this year. This year also, we are going to have tuition-free at the University of the Bahamas. And again, approximately 1,700 or so university students, first-time university students, are going to be benefiting from that.
Workers at Morton Salt in Inagua are still at odds with their employer. The union representing staff has been seeking to negotiate a new industrial agreement, but claims the company is not budging on some key issues. While the union has threatened to strike, Labor Minister Dion Folks urged both parties to continue their dialogue.
I wish to encourage both sides, the owners and the management side and the union side, to reach an agreement and to give and take. I know for the workers in Inagua that things are rough. I know that, but the government is very empathetic to the plight of the workers, and the most I can say at this point is I want both sides to give and take.
And still to come on our News Weekend, the Zonta Club working to broaden its reach. Stay tuned.